Today we are making piadina, which are these really beautiful Italian flatbreads, and you basically stuff them with anything that you would usually put in a sandwich. The dough is really easy to make, so let's get into it. To make our dough, you need 500 grams of 00 flour in a large bowl. You can make it in a stand mixer fitted with a dough hook, or we can use our hands, which I'm going to do today. To the flour, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, which is going to give our dough a nice kind of puffiness and softness. I'm going to add a good teaspoon of sea salt, fine sea salt, or you can use the flakes and just kind of crunch them up. Give that a little mix with our hands. And then we're going to add in the butter. So this is 80 grams of unsalted butter. It is at room temperature, so not really cold and hard and difficult to work in, but it's also not super soft. So just at room temperature is fine. Traditionally, you often find that lard is used, but I find it a little bit difficult to come by. So I'm using butter here, which yields really good results as well. So just break that up, toss it into the flour, and then I'm just going to start rubbing it into the flour. So we just kind of want to end up with the flour and the butter kind of nicely mixed together. So almost like coarse breadcrumbs. So we're just going to give that a little bit of a mix. And once the butter is all incorporated into the flour, we're going to add our liquid. So I have gone for half milk, half water. So it's 150 mils each of full cream milk and water, which I've just heated up on the stove just till it's warm. So you want it kind of that blood temperature, nothing too hot because your hands are going in it. So you don't want to burn yourself. Alrighty. I reckon that's looking pretty good. We've got that nice kind of crumb texture in the flour. And now we're going to slowly add in our milk and water. So 150 mils of each. So just kind of start in the center, like a well, and then bring in that flour and butter mixture. And it is quite a soft dough, so just keep some extra flour on hand if you need to add a little bit more, but definitely when we start kneading it, you'll need to have some flour next to you. So mix it in until you can't really see any of the flour at the bottom. And then we're going to tip it out onto our board. And now we can really start kneading it as you would with bread or pizza making. It's a similar kind of concept. We just want to really work that gluten in the dough, and then we're going to let it rest. So we knead it for about 10 minutes until it's nice and smooth. If you feel like it's sticking, just grab a little bit of flour, dust your board again, and you can keep on going. And you can see it is a beautiful dough to work with. Nice and soft. All right, so we've been kneading it for almost 10 minutes and it's starting to look really nice and smooth, which is what you want. Just shape it into a ball by putting your hands underneath and using the kind of friction of the board to get that nice, beautiful surface. I've got a bowl over here. Just going to grease it with a little bit of olive oil, just so it doesn't stick. And pop the dough in here, and I'm just going to cover it with a tea towel, and that can rest on the bench for about half an hour. Our dough is ready. It is super smooth, and all that's left to do is divide it into 8 pieces. So we're going to make 8 piadine. You can make them bigger if you'd like, but I'm kind of doing it according to my pan. So 8 I seem to think is a good number. I'm just going to divide it in half and then into 4 pieces. You can weigh it if you want to be super precise. I'm just going to roll these pieces into rough balls, and you don't want any flour on the board at this point. That friction is really important for creating those nice balls, otherwise they're going to slip and slide everywhere. I'm just going to dust my board with a little bit of flour so it doesn't stick to my rolling pin. And we're just going to roll them out till they're fairly thin, because they are going to puff up a little bit in the pan. So a few millimeters in thickness. So you just keep on turning the dough. This is why the resting time is super important. If you don't rest your dough and you try and roll it out, it's just going to shrink back on you every time you roll. It'll be very frustrating. So make sure you give it that time to relax and rest. And then this part is a breeze. They're not perfect circles, but that's okay. They don't have to be, you know, you don't want them to look like shop bought, basically. You want them to look handmade. So I've got 4, and I'm just gonna come over to the pan, which I've got heating. It's on medium heat, and I'm just gonna put them straight in. So this goes down, and it only takes a minute or 2 on each side. You don't want them to get brown or golden, because then they go crunchy. So you want them to be nice and soft and pliable. And you don't need any oil in the pan. They don't stick. This is a cast iron pan, but non-stick cast iron, you don't need any oil. Look at this big bubble. I reckon we can turn it. Be careful because this is super hot. There we go. And the other side doesn't need long at all. That is ready. Perfect. Let's fill these beautiful piadine. I'm just going to do a really simple filling of buffalo mozzarella. So you can just tear that on. And I'm going to add some prosciutto, which I've just bought from the deli. You can also, some of my other favorite fillings are tuna and hard-boiled eggs. You can do kind of like braised greens with stracciatella, but really whatever you put in a sandwich, even ham and cheese is delicious in these piadina. And I'm gonna top it with some locally grown rocket, actually. It's really stunning. I like to do a little bit of a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm gonna season it with a little bit of sea salt and black pepper. So a little bit of salt and some freshly ground black pepper. And then we just fold it over, and there is our beautiful piadina. You can cut it in half. It is such a good picnic food, lunchtime food. It's one of my favorites. I'm gonna have a try. So delicious.